everyone. This is Linda Ferguson
and Karen Nelson-Bell.
And welcome to another episode of Platinum Prime for Life podcast, where we give you advice to help you live your best Platinum Prime life. So, speaking about advice, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. And advice, giving advice, getting advice. Do you like to give it? Do you like to get it? And some advice tips that we have for you. And if you stay with us to the end of this episode, we have a great handout that gives you some tips from experts on the giving and receiving of advice in the best ways possible. All right. So the thing about advice is it can be super touchy to give. And I'm going to actually just ask you a question, Karen. How do you feel about giving advice?
I love it.
Okay.
If somebody says, I'd like your opinion, I just say, well, I have so many. I have so many to offer, and if somebody actually, I like giving it when it's asked for. I'm not so crazy about giving it when I feel like, oh, I want to give it, but I don't think it's going to be received. And then you're like walking on eggshells. I don't care for that scenario too much. Oh yeah, I have so many opinions. I'm just full. There's a rather crude phrase. Everybody has opinions, and I do. So yeah, how about you?
Yes, I definitely do. So giving advice when it's not asked for is a very touchy kind of a situation. I think I mentioned that just a moment ago. How would you, if you were talking to someone, like we were literally just before we started recording this, I was just talking about a situation in my life that I've been trying to handle for a long time. Karen went to give me a suggestion, which is also known as advice. Just, hey, why don't you check this out? And I just said, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about it. Why? Because literally everyone that I've ever talked to and where I brought up, oh, I'm having trouble in this area, it's like, boom, there's some advice there. But in this case, Karen actually gives great advice. And so she just calmly took a deep breath and said, would you let me finish what I was about to say? And I said, oh, yeah, sure, sure, go ahead. And it was great advice.
Oh,
I apologize on camera.
that was pretty funny, Linda. that happened pretty much exactly how she said it. And here's when people have a problem and it's known to their friends that they have this problem. Let's just talk about health, for example. I have a friend who is battling cancer, and everybody wants to give you their advice when you have any ailment, but in particular cancer. A cancer patient has to declare somewhere along the way that who's going to advise them, whose advice are they going to accept, how are they going to respond, because everybody wants, not in a mean way, everybody wants to share what was successful for them. They want to share what was successful for their best friend. They want to help. That's just an instinct. I think it's a human instinct that we want to help, but it becomes overwhelming because you're getting advice from everywhere. And I know for a fact that what Linda was telling me about is something that she's been working on for a while, and I think probably has done everything. It's like I have scoliosis. I have a curved spine, and I've been working on it since 1990. That's 35 years I've been working on this. And I think I've tried every single thing except surgery. So when people come, oh, you've got to try this, it's like, oh, yeah. So it is delicate. It is very delicate, even when it's wanted. Have you ever had that happen, Linda? I mean, I had this happen. Uh, I'll tell you the story, but have you ever had somebody ask you for advice and then it didn't go well, even though they asked for it?
That's, well, I'm a coach, so I definitely am in that situation quite a bit. Not that it doesn't go well, but people will ask me for advice, and when I give it, they promptly don't use it. The next time I see them, I say, "Did you try blah, 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 whatever it was we were talking about?" Well, no, because I knew it wouldn't work, or some such comment. And I've encountered that quite a few times. So the answer
Well,
is yes.
well, I've encountered it where I, as a coach as well, but in this case, it was not as in my job as a coach, but just was asked for advice on a particular thing, and I gave the advice, and it went contrary to what they wanted to hear, and I lost a friend. So yeah, when you say advice is delicate, boy howdy. Now I regained the friend after some years, but and it was very heartwarming to me to regain the friendship because I sure didn't mean to. I gave him my. When you're giving advice, you are giving it from the heart. Yeah, I mean, I'm giving it from the heart, and I'm sure you are. You're giving your best wisdom, as wise as you can be on whatever that topic is. You're giving your best. So, yeah, well, the one thing we can agree on is it's delicate.
Here's a quote that I love. This is from Randy Cohen, who's a writer for the Eth- Ethicist. How do you say that? Ethic with ist at the end. New York.
Ethicist. I think ethicist.
That's so his title is ethicist for the New York Times. And he says, don't go there. Unsolicited advice is almost always a bad idea. So the key word is unsolicited.
Yeah.
And people do knee jerk when they hear you've got a relationship situation or a health situation and sometimes a financial situation. They do want to give you helpful advice that may just come from nowhere or from something that they read in some article somewhere and they're passing it on. But if you've lived with something for a while, you chances are you've heard most of what they're about to say, and it's just like, ugh, I have to listen to it again. So, almost always a bad idea. But let's just say, how would you handle it if you still feel like there could be some benefit and you're not sure whether the person that would be receiving the advice is open to receiving it? How would you do that?
It's interesting that you use that phrasing because I have found success, and this wasn't something that I just instinctively knew. It was actually taught to me by a coach, by a business coach, my favorite business coach, in fact. And the phrase is, "Would you be open to blah blah blah? Would you be open to da 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 da? Would you be open to me sending you? Would you be open to me sending you some information, or would you rather I keep it to myself?" That phrase, "Would you be open?" Because if a person isn't open, that's a. If they tell you they're not open, that's a good answer. You really know where you are.
Mm, I like that.
If
Really
you
nice.
if they say they are open, but most people won't tell you that they're not open because that's like if you say, "Karen, would you be open to me giving you some help with your hairstyle?" No, no, that would be really rude, right?
Um, so I'm known as being headstrong in moments in my life and where I really will shut out advice and I'm not in the receptive mode. And my business partner, who's now gotten very used to me, will say, would you like my thoughts on what you just told me? And that always makes me sort of pause and say, oh, it makes me realize that, you know, I'm one way flowing. It's not inflow. It is just, I want to like blah, blah, blah. So that's a good one for me. That sort of breaks
Say it again.
things
I like
down.
that too. I'm going to use that. Say it again.
Would
Would
you like my thoughts? Would
Would
you
you
like
like
my
my
thoughts?
thoughts?
Yeah.
And how many times has somebody said to you, "No, I don't want your thoughts"?
No,
I
I've
don't.
never had that. I've never had that come up.
Yeah, I don't think you will. I think it's a great phrase. Would you be open? Would you like to hear my thoughts? Would you like to hear my thoughts on that? That's great, Linda. I love that. Did you just think that up all by yourself?
Well, I read articles to get ready for today, so it
See,
was
here's what. See,
mentioned somewhere or another.
well, you went to somebody to get that advice, and you took the advice from a stranger on YouTube or a stranger in a book, or when you're seeking it out and you're not asking a friend, it's a whole nother ball
That's
game.
not true. That's exactly right. All right, so now let's actually go to, so this is unsolicited advice, how people treat it. But let me ask you something. Have you ever gotten advice that was such a gift that to this day you think back on it and use it?
Yes, the
Hmm.
answer is yes. Do you
Okay.
want? Would you like me to tell you the first piece of advice I ever got?
Absolutely.
I remember so vividly. My father told me to find something to do for a living that you love, so that every day you're having enjoyment and you love what you're doing. And then he gave me a second piece of advice. I said, do it the very, very best that you possibly can. Be the best at what you're doing as you can possibly do. You won't regret it. And those were, he was like saying, don't be a dilettante. Don't play around at what you're doing. Do everything you're going to do with a purpose and a passion. And those two pieces of advice is, yeah, I'm sure everybody can scour, well, not everybody probably, but most people can scour their family life for advice. Have you got something along those lines?
Not one that comes to mind, but let me just ask you, so that advice, did that change your life?
Yeah,
What
of
impact?
course. I mean, I've been doing what I love. I almost always. And when I'm doing what I don't love, I'll do it for a while and I'll find some way to like it, but I will remove myself from situations that don't embrace what I love. What I love is people and music and helping and yeah, I'm having a ball. so so I think and I do. I tried really. I'm too interested in too many things, and I try to do them all professionally. You know, somebody said to me, "Do you want? Could you make a country show?" I'd never been a producer of a show or a director of a show. I'd never written a show, and I said yes, and then I did everything I could to be professional about it, and it was very successful. And it got me my first statewide Emmy for television show on CBS, and yeah, that was great advice. I followed it. I'm 80. I have 81 years of doing that. Well, no, I have 61 years because I didn't start working until I was 21.
That's great. That is really good. So the advice that has really changed my life, there are two pieces, and both were not given to me by a person, but it was just advice or a quote that I read that I took as this is great advice. So one was a statement, and the statement is, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." And it's advice, if you want to call it that, that I've used when it just seems like nothing could be worse at the moment. It was something that's really terrible. And I just remember, all right, tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day and things are actually going to get better, and I just have to remember that.
That's great.
So, yeah, and I've
Great.
used that advice many, many times. Not many, many, many. I actually don't have really horrible, terrible things that occur in my life, but sometimes like the loss when my mother died, it was really rough and tough, and well, I felt like life couldn't get any worse, and I couldn't imagine actually feeling happy again. And then I remembered that and just kept walking, and
That's
there you go.
fantastic. Sometimes we even just see, we see on social media graphics of motivational quotes. Used to be you'd have posters, businesses would buy posters and put them on the wall with motivational quotes. And there's a quote that I just love because it said, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just said kind of reminded me of that quote. And I thought, well, we can get advice. We can get advice. We can call up Chat GPT and ask for advice. Uh, you know, it's just this aspect of giving it when it's not welcome. It's just a son of a gun. Yeah, because
Exactly.
it's just so delicate. It's and just like a husband has a hard time teaching his wife how to drive, whereas the neighbor's husband probably could teach her to drive really well. There's something about advice coming from your best friends and your sister and this and that. It's probably less welcome for some reason.
Well, yeah, and it's probably the spirit in which it is given is there to help, but a lot of times it does sometimes come off as really preachy, like,
Uh,
I know better than you. So here's a nice quote about giving advice, and it's a tip if you do want to give someone advice. The quote is from Philippa Perry. She's an author and she's a psychotherapist. The quote is very good. It's good advice respects the recipient's autonomy, or in other words, good advice allows a person to be themselves and make their own choices rather than be preachy and say, I know better than you. Obviously, you suck because you haven't figured it out. And you should take this. Instead, the advice given is, I know you're a smart person and you've probably figured out a lot of things. Maybe this can help you. Sort of just addresses the and honors a person's ability to live their own life and make their own decisions. Whether or not those decisions would be your decisions is up to them and not up to you.
so I have a scenario I would like you to give a sample of giving advice in that way. Okay, you have a friend and she is in an abusive marriage. And she's been in this abusive marriage. It's physically abusive to her and her children, emotionally, mentally abusive as well. And she has never left. And she hasn't asked you, should I leave or should I anything? It's unsolicited, but you're looking at her from the point of view of her safety
Mm-hmm.
and and her children's welfare, health and welfare. So how could you approach a person who clearly needs some advice because they're stuck in they're not getting themselves any good advice and acting upon it? How would you give some advice in that scenario?
Sure. I have advice on how I would give advice. So the first thing I would say is, we'll call her Susie. Susie, you know I dearly love you. We've been friends for years. And so what I'm seeing is there are things that are happening in your life that to me look like you might have a situation with your spouse. And it's concerning me because it feels to me like maybe things aren't safe for you. So I'm going to ask you something, and that is, if I were you, if you're looking at me and you saw in me what I've just expressed to you, what advice would you give to me? And I've had this happen before, and then the person sort of picks through because you've taken it off their defense to they love me, and I'm in a situation that is not ideal, however that was expressed to them. And so, very often, the advice they would give to me gives them the space to look at, hey, I need to do something. And once they've given me that advice, then I say, great. Yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you. Now, would you take that advice for yourself? And do you need help? Can I help you do that?
Do you need help? Yeah.
So, because sometimes people feel like, oh, especially abusive relationships, they already are triggered to thinking, I can't do it on my own. No one would want me. Where would I go? You know, they create a problems that are bigger than their existing situation of problems. Um, and so when you're helping someone in that way, where they say, now I need help, I want help, yes, but I don't know how to, then it's a different kind of advice.
That
And
was beautiful.
again,
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I'm glad I'm your friend. So if I ever get in trouble, I know I'll get good advice. Yeah, I'm giving you carte blanche to give me advice.
well, okay, thank you. And same, vice versa. All right, so that's good advice. And that kind of advice, let's just say heartfelt advice to someone you truly love that maybe they haven't originated something that you've observed because they're ashamed of it, they're oblivious to it, or some other non-optimum situation. So it's unsolicited advice. And if it's heartfelt, it's coming from the heart. The introduction is, I love you and I've observed these things. You can let me know if I'm wrong or not. Because sometimes we also can observe something and be totally off base. So that's a good
Okay,
introduction.
I have another one. I want you to give me advice. So I'm a coach for people who want to lose weight, who want to maintain a healthy weight, and who want to handle their metabolic dysfunction. We had talked another time about, I had quoted a statistic that 90% of the planet is metabolically unfit, and we both agreed that that didn't sound like a correct statistic, but it is. It's 9 out of 10 people have metabolic dysfunction. So here I am, and I am a formerly fat person, and I can use the F word on myself, but I would never use it on anybody else. And by the way, if somebody wishes to stay at a larger size, I have no problem with that. This is a no judgment zone. I'm not telling anybody. I do like the idea that you might want to be healthy because I've never seen any obese centenarians. It doesn't happen. And I'm going for longevity. So with that said, I have acquaintances and friends of acquaintances. I'm thinking of one particular person, and her husband even wanted me to like give her help. I said, hey, do you know anybody that'd like my help with weight loss? And he said, yeah, my wife. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm not gonna offer, I'm never ever gonna offer weight loss advice to a person who is heavy. But if you had, it's my business to do that, to help people. But I have sort of taken a pledge to never, ever offer my help to a person on that topic unless they've said to me, can you help me? Or how did you do it? How did you, that's, I guess that's why I brag about, losing 101 pounds and keeping it off. May 1st will be 7 years that
Hmm.
I've been in a healthy range. The last year I've gone down finally to my true correct weight. Uh, but it's been a really miracle for me to stay 7 years fit,
Hmm.
healthy and fit. And so how can I help somebody who I can clearly see I have the ability to help, and they clearly need my help, but you just can't go up to somebody and say, hey.
So, yeah, maybe she feels helpless about it. So I would invite her to a boot camp or some different sort of an event. And just in a sort of a, it's not singling her out. Because if she's not open to the advice, she's not open to the advice, and she could take it as an insult.
So you agree with me? I would never tell somebody,
Never.
yeah, that's my pledge. So if you know me and you're fat, I'm waiting for you to come to me.
There you go. Yeah, but you can make something like pretty fun and boot campy, hey, we're doing a fitness challenge. Is that something you'd be interested in? And it just isn't a pointing out specifically for her, but it's a we're all doing this. It's going to be super fun. Lots of people will be there. You want to do it.
That's so funny you just said that, because just yesterday I posted my first ever super senior fitness challenge.
Good.
I was
Did
like,
she see it? Invite her personally. Is she a super
no, I don't.
senior?
I don't know her well enough to do that.
Oh, I gotcha. All right. So now we sort of touched on this, but let's touch on it again. The world is full of bad advice. The world is full of political opinions. The world is full of things that are not a right fit for you or for others. How do you handle that when someone comes up and says, vote for blah de blah, or you shouldn't be eating that because you're going to get cancer for sure? So that's bad advice or bad unsolicited advice.
Well, I one phrase comes to mind in terms of that's why God made pistachio ice cream, because not everybody likes chocolate and vanilla.
Is that what you would say to them?
If they were saying, "Hey, you have to do this my way and choose my politics, or choose my religion, or choose something," and I'd say, "Well, we're all different.
Well, that's a good response.
We're all different. That's why God made pistachio ice cream." What?
It's a pretty fun German proverb, which is not all advice is golden. So you never give advice unless asked. This is a proverb. Never give advice unless asked. The wise won't need it, and the fool won't heed it.
Oh my gosh, that's a great little rhyme. The wise won't need it, and the fool won't heed it.
That's right. All right. So, yeah, a really good one, a really good thing to say, and I can't remember where I heard it from, is thanks for sharing. I'll think about it.
Thanks for sharing. I'll think about it. Oh, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rackety, rackety,
I'm practicing using that. That sounds good. I like that.
It's just a nice glance off. Thanks for sharing an acknowledgement that goes away. All right. So,
It kind of, I will say, it kind of says, "I don't agree with you."
it does say that without negating what they just said. But it definitely says that. That's bad advice, right? Thanks for sharing. And it puts it back on them.
You're good, Linda. You're a good coach. You coached me good today. Excellent.
Thanks
You
for
coached me
sharing.
very well today.
Oh, all right. Okay. Now, giving advice that doesn't bomb. How do you do that? So, this is a quote from Henry Ward Beecher. I don't actually remember. I've read other things from him. I don't know the time frame.
When you said that, I thought of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote Little.
Henry, yeah, and I think that it's super old school.
Okay.
Henry Ward Beecher. The secret of advice is being okay if no one takes it. That's good advice. So you give advice, the person takes it or doesn't. That always is my advice. I just feel like,
That's great.
yeah,
Okay, you asked me for the advice. I gave you the advice, and it's on you. You can take it, don't take it. We're still friends.
exactly. That's the kind of advice I like best because there are no strings attached. It's like, this is good. I consider this is good advice, but it may not be a good fit for you. And actually, that is how you give advice. You say, it's worked for me, it's worked for others. I don't know if it'll work for you. You may want to try it out to see if it works for you. That's really good advice.
So that's why I will always take advice from you.
Oh, well, you're the one who says it that way, but I'll say it that way.
Oh, I do. It's true, because as a keto coach, people think that I'm a keto purist, and nothing could be further from the truth. Right now, I'm experimenting with another thing, and then next week I'm experimenting with another thing, and so and I totally know that whether you have cancer, whether you have an abusive relationship, whether you need to lose weight, whether you just need advice on what color to wear to the prom, everybody is so different. And that's why God made pistachio ice cream.
Very true. All right. Well, we've gone over a lot of advice. We've given you tips on how to give good advice, how to take good advice, how to take bad advice and what to do with it, and how to not be offended if someone doesn't take your advice.
Yay.
So we put together tips on the Platinum Prime for Life Guide to Giving Advice. And if you would like a copy, you can send either of us a direct message that says advice, and we'll get it to
Or
you.
even just a comment in the comment section. It doesn't even have to be a DM. Just say, send it to me.
Get advice. Get advice. All right. So do you have any other advice before we end off for the day, Karen?
Oh, my advice is that I think this is my advice, and you didn't ask me for it. I think you should do something wonderful for yourself today.
This is for anyone listening to us, right? Anyone listening to us. Okay, I like that advice. I will take that advice.
You and me, we're going to take the advice as well. How about you? What's your advice?
My advice is to live a happy life. You need to be true to yourself and hang out with others who are living the type of life you want to live too.
I like that, and I'm going to do that.
All right. And with that, this ends this episode of the Platinum Prime for Life podcast. So have a wonderful week, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.